Hey everyone, today I want to talk about tournaments and specifically some tournament concepts that come up often in my coaching sessions with, inexperienced or mid-stakes players that are learning mixed games by playing in a lot of the tournaments that exist around the country and around the world. And the situation is this. You get off to an unfortunate bad start in the tournament. Your stack is dwindling early on. You're not really that near the money, but you're starting to get shallow and you're realizing that maybe the next hand you play could be the last one that you could afford to play. And what adjustments do you make? How do you handle that situation? What am I thinking about when I've gone off to a bad start and I have to consider preserving my chips? Well, the answer may surprise you, but the answer is really nothing. I think that most of my students and most players in tournaments are way too eager to over-adjust early on to a short stack size. They are thinking so much about stack preservation and trying to survive in the tournament as long as possible that they just start playing nitty, strange poker instead of just playing normal kind of cash game poker where they're just trying to accumulate chips and make as many plus EV decisions as possible. When I'm in the early stages of a tournament, whether it's a rebuy tournament or not, my goal is to accumulate chips. My job is to build up my stack by taking plus EV spots as many as I can, as often as I can, so that I can be in a good position later in the tournament when the ICM situations start to when the ICM pressure starts to rise and there are more opportunities to start leveraging the differences in stack sizes from early on. Another reason is just because there are simply a lot of inexperienced or bad players at the early stages of the tournament, and I want to make sure to maximize all my opportunities to accumulate chips from them, as they are very likely to bust before you get to the late stages of the tournament, and the field is going to get a little bit tougher. So the only real adjustment I have to make if I get a very shallow stack early on is just be sure that I have enough chips to fire my way through the hand to the river if I end up with a hand that's supposed to bluff. But other than that, sometimes just being handcuffed by not being able to bluff because I don't have any chips, I'm not really making any adjustments. I'm just trying to take every plus EV spot. I tell students, if you run out of chips in the middle of the hand, that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Turn over your cards, see how you do. If you win that hand, now you have a few more chips and you can continue trying to take every plus EV spot that you get. This is the way that experienced and strong players think about tournaments. The early levels of the tournament are not one to be afraid of busting. There's no prize for making it to the top 50 percentile of the field. That is not how you make money in poker tournaments, and it's not something that you need to be worried about. One thing that's kind of interesting about this is that loose aggressive players actually do quite well in poker tournaments for this exact reason. They are the ones who early on are much more in chip accumulation mode, and yeah, they're going to be overdoing it in a lot of spots, but they're actually playing closer to correctly than a lot of more nitty-minded players who are simply passing on too many plus EV opportunities because they're trying to survive so early in the tournament. And then those loose aggressive players do sometimes end up building up a stack where they can really start to take advantage of the mistakes and the ICM pressure later on in the event and actually do very well. And guess what? If they bust out early on, it's no big deal. They move on, they go do something else. Your time is worth something too, and that might be a factor that's not really an EV calculation, but you can also think about maximizing your time, saving your stress and your energy if you're playing in a big tournament series. These are factors that come to mind too about not trying to simply survive, but really trying to thrive in the tournament. Of course, the other side of that coin is if you are there for a more recreational reason, if you're there for the enjoyment of playing in the event, then sure, it does make sense to try to extend your stay as long as possible. But you have to be understanding that you're making minus EV decisions, that you're sacrificing EV for the feeling of staying in the tournament longer. That is not necessarily going to help your ROI in the tournament one bit to just try to stay in there as long as possible. That is not how poker tournaments work, especially in the early stages. So next time you're playing in one, I hope you think about this concept a little bit more and really just try to play the early stages of a tournament like you would in a cash game. Just try to make as many plus EV decisions as you can. You may find yourself being a little bit more able to build up a stack because you're not so concerned about running out of chips. And that will end up paying huge dividends later on in the tournament as you do get to the stages of the tournament where ICM factors start to creep in, start to matter quite a lot. And now you finally have enough chips to take advantage of the players that are having to play very nitty in that situation. So think about that a little bit. Let me know what questions that raises for you. I'm going to talk about mixed game tournament concepts a little bit more going forward on the channel, and I'll try to give my thoughts on various situations, how I'm thinking about things during the tournament, what things I'm focused on, maybe what things I think people are too focused on, like the ones here today. And yeah, curious to hear your feedback. See you guys all in the comments. Talk to you soon. Thanks.